So I'm here today at Highfields Adventure Playground. I came here a couple of weeks ago and I was quite mesmerised by what this playground provides to the local children in the Highfields area, particularly those children from lower income backgrounds or those who need extra support. I was taken aback by the personal story behind the creation of this playground and how long it's been going for with very little support. So, Kevin, tell us about your personal story linked to this playground.
My personal story linked to this playground. Okay, so this playground was opened in 1971, and I was here the first day it ever opened as a 7-year-old child, which is
So you were one of the kids that this playground saved?
Probably the first child?
the first child.
Amazing.
No, I wasn't necessarily the first
But it was
child.
your first. It was the day it was first opened.
The first day it opened, I was
were
here.
there, yeah, yeah.
In fact, I was here before that because my parents knew the first play worker, Lee Solomon, who sadly died 2 Saturdays ago.
Oh, wow.
And he was actually part of our founders group. So along with Lee, some of the original students who raised the money for the building and campaigned to have it set up back in the late 60s, they have actually come back after our 50th anniversary, which was 3 years ago, and started to formulate plans to modernise the building, and to basically make the playground fit for purpose for the next 50 years. These guys are all in their 70s and 80s now, but actually were passionate enough to want to come back. So we've been meeting with them for about 3 years, quite regularly, and also we've brought people in from the university, because obviously for the Leicester University, this is quite a positive story that their students
Are linked to?
well, they set this place up. You know, it was their idea wholly to have a playground in the park all those years ago, and obviously it's very positive for them. So we had all these plans in place and we were meeting regular. And one of the founders was roped in because he was working for Arabs on one of the university buildings at the time, and the students said to him, how do you fancy doing some voluntary work? So they got him, Simon Kaplinski, to come along and do all the drawings for the playground in terms of the architecture, and he worked then with the builders who built the place, and he'd come back on board, and he's been in touch with Arabs, who are a multinational building company, and they've been along to the playground and looked at the fabric of the playground and the design and how we can extend it, etc. They've done all that pro bono. So we have all these plans in place, and 2 years ago we wrote to the council and said, look, we've only got a 1-year lease, which was a surprise to the students because they raised the money for the playground in the first place, and they didn't understand how it didn't belong to the organisation. So they were a bit shocked by that. But they said, look, we can't do anything with these plans we've got unless we have a much longer lease or an asset transfer. So they wrote to the council, and the council wrote back and said, basically batted it off and just said, oh no, we've always supported the playgrounds, but they didn't address the issue of an asset transfer or a longer lease. Since then I've spoken to senior councillors and asked, look, you know, how can we progress this? And we've written twice since to the council to ask for meetings to talk about this situation and how we can achieve either an asset transfer or a longer lease. Then, sadly, in October, the council wrote to us and said, we're in serious financial trouble, we're facing a possibility of a 114, and we'll be in touch with you. But they left it till the end of January, February to actually send some officers to the playground and say there will be cuts within this year. Then there was a bit of tennis going on between officers saying one thing and senior councillors saying another. Basically the officers were saying there will be cuts, and senior councillors were saying there won't be cuts, which seems really odd, to be honest. But it went to the full budget meeting. The Greens put forward a proposal for 4 years secured funding for the playgrounds. That was voted down at council, and Peter Soulsby said there would be no cuts this year. So we thought, at least we've got some breathing room, and we can look to negotiate in terms of, sorting out an asset transfer or a longer lease. About a week later, the council then wrote to us and said, we're going to put you on monthly funding, and by September you've got to come up with a plan of how you're going to sustain yourself beyond March of next year, when all funding will cease. So for us, that's put us now in a situation whereby, they're saying, oh, we've given you a year, but actually it works out to about 6 months, because we've got to look after our management committee,
That's right.
our trustees,
Yeah.
who are all volunteers.
Yeah.
And any financial implications are going to come back on them. So at some point during this month, we're not quite sure when, we've got to do kind of more exact figures. We're actually going to be giving out redundancy notices to staff, because we have to wind up
That's right.
properly. Otherwise, that could come back on those trustees who are our voluntary management committee, are made up of local parents, etc.
Yeah.
But the tragedy of this, for this 53-year-old community
Institution.
project,
Yeah.
which is incredibly popular and has
Yeah.
served thousands of people throughout this city,
Absolutely.
is that this didn't have to happen. 2 years ago, we wrote, and 2 times since we've wrote for meetings about an asset transfer. And sadly as well, and I don't know how the council can kind of justify this, they've known for a long time that they're in serious financial trouble.
Yeah, they have.
And they've obviously said in the press and elsewhere that the trajectory is downwards, and that we're on a cliff edge. But given that, there's no plan. They've had no plan in place. They've had several years to try and formulate a plan with community and voluntary organisations like ourselves to say, look, what's going to happen in a few years' time. But and during this time, as I said, we've asked them, but we're now still on a 1-year lease. And even if tomorrow they gave us an asset transfer or the kind of equivalent in terms of a long-term lease, the turnaround for a big grant that's going to give us our core funding to be able to survive is like a year. So they should have done this
A long time
ago,
ago.
Yes.
which is why we were formulating plans. I know the council are in trouble. And the 3 separate letters have gone in
Yeah.
over
And
2
they've not
years,
addressed it.
and they haven't addressed it.
So, just going back to your link to this place, what did this place mean to you as a kid?
So, without getting very emotional, I came here as a child, and typical boy running around, enjoying being in a natural environment. But also, it was that feeling of that this was a child's space, and I'm going to say about getting emotional. That meant a lot to me as a child, and it means a lot to me as an adult.
Yeah.
That there are places.
Take your time.
There are places that are for children
Yeah.
and invest in children.
Yeah.
The kids who come here, 6 to 14-year-olds,
Yeah.
you're going to have to stop that.
Saying what it means to you, but you don't have to go over it again, because I know it's clearly something really that you feel quite deeply about. But unsurprisingly, because I'm a nobody compared to, in terms of this institution, but when I came for one visit, that alone broke my heart, the thought of losing this thing from our community. And so I completely understand why it's a lot for you to talk about. But it shows how much it means to the children that pass through this place and how much it adds to their lives. And so I think it's really important that people understand what we stand to lose.
Well, a 53-year-old project that is child-centred and is about children having a childhood, and that's what we are. We are investors in childhood, and we have children here from 6 right through to 14, 15, and today there's 6 older volunteers. Their children have grown up here and are now volunteers.
They've come back
They've
to
come
add
back.
to it.
And I was a volunteer
Yeah.
many years ago. Yeah,
Sure.
lots of our staff and management are connected to the place from being children. So there's thousands and thousands of people throughout Leicester who have a connection
To
to
the
the adventure playground, and it's about their childhood, and they recognise the importance of that. So yes, it's very, very important. I mean, most places that are about children are an attachment to an adult world, and it's a kind of an add-on. This place and places like it are really important because they are centred around children, and it puts children at the very heart of it, and I think that is a very important thing to do. And it's a recognition for the children who come here, but also a statement in the wider context that we should be valuing children.
And also, like, you know, if we lose this place, I think it's important to understand how much energy and how much creativity went into creating this place, right? You've been developing this place for years. It's changed.
I mean, this
Incredible hard work and
this
dedication.
place. I mean, you can
We
have a little
saw-
walk round and see
Yeah.
what we've done outside. I mean, we're in the greenhouse at the moment,
Yeah.
but this place was founded by volunteers. This place is, managed by volunteers. We have volunteer children.
Yeah.
I volunteered so many of my hours without getting paid for it on my holidays, because I absolutely believe in the place. And I'm very lucky. I come to work and I enjoy what I do. A lot of people don't do that. I've not had a pay rise for 25 years.
And your staff, isn't it?
Some of the staff have pay rises. Some,
But you haven't.
Some have. No, I've not.
For
had a pay
25 years.
25 years we've been on a standstill budget, and I kind of figured if I carried on having pay rises, then we would run out of money even quicker.
Wow.
Luckily, I'm in a position whereby my daughter's grown up, but I mean, certainly I feel the effect after 25 years of being on the same wages.
Sure.
But I feel passionate about what I'm doing, and in so far as that, in terms of anybody's life, you spend so much time at work, and to have a job that you enjoy doing and that you're passionate about, I think is has a lot of value. A lot of people, sadly, spend a whole lot of their life at work
And hating it.
and not enjoying it.
Yeah.
And it's just purely
Yeah.
about money.
Yeah.
And I'm not in that position, luckily. There are things about this place that do upset me, that give me sleepless nights. But the vast majority of my work here is really rewarding, because it's about children and young people.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of tragedies amongst them.
Yeah, sure.
But there are plenty of success stories as well.
Yeah.
And to be honest, being around kids, they are just full of beans most of the time.
Yeah.
So even if you're feeling down yourself, it doesn't take you long being around the
They
kids
pick you up.
to
Yeah.
pick you up. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're really lucky here that we can have a kind of human exchange with children that's about mutual respect. So it's not like a school whereby children have to do as they're told. So here, if things are going wrong, we'll sit down with the kids, we'll explain what's going wrong and why.
Yeah.
So we're into nurturing them as young people, and actually, when there's problems between themselves as well, it's about how do we sort all that out.
Yeah.
Myself and Arsia have pledged to do everything we can to try and help their campaign, to try and help the city understand what it stands to lose, because this is really a jewel in our community, and it deserves to thrive and survive rather than be shut down.